I'm Louise Gibson. I'm Deputy Director of PE at John Mason School, and I was in the learning group that was looking at motivation. We looked at one of my Year 8 classes where I had two students who were key influences over the group. So basically, if they came in a positive attitude, the whole class had a great lesson. If they came in a negative attitude, it affected the whole dynamics of the rest of the lesson and the learning that happened within that class. From the time we were in the classroom to when we got out onto the playing field, I had to try and motivate them and encourage them to do the right thing, ready for the start of the lesson. So in one particular lesson we looked at, we were doing a volleyball lesson, and we'd only played volleyball once before that. And they actually were really good, but they have no self-confidence, and that's what causes sometimes the interruption to the lessons and things like that. So from the research that we had done within our study groups, then it was changing their mindset. When they entered the classroom, they were already being fairly negative. So once I'd done the register and we walked over to the volleyball courts, within that time I pulled them to the side and I spoke to them and I gave them the heads up on what the lesson was going to be, how I wanted them to perform, and then also gave them loads of encouragement from how well they did the previous lesson, spoke to them about what was demotivating them right before the lesson, put all that to the side, and then use them within the lesson to demonstrate, to show that they could do it. And they absolutely loved it. They loved being the show of the class, and being in front of everybody and doing that. And because I did that, they got on with it straight away, and it meant that the rest of the group saw, well, if these two can do it, then the rest of us can undertake the task. The two students I use, they find it very difficult in the class that I have, that when you put them into groups, people don't always want to work with them, because they see them as being disruptive, they see them as not trying in lessons and things like that. By the end of this lesson, people were asking to be in their team. Being in a classroom behind a desk is completely different to being on the field, and you tend to find the students are different, and that was interesting as well to find out the students that can influence my lessons and have that fixed mindset are different to what would be in a maths lesson. So it was interesting to see how maths coped with it, and then we looked at some like art lessons, and then obviously PE as well, because art's behind a desk but it's in a classroom but it's still practical based and things like that. So it was interesting talking within our groups. We spoke about our subjects and how we can relate to each other's research that we were doing. We did it that way. It was, very interesting. My teaching style, because of this research, it has changed. And it's not overly noticeable maybe to the children, but in terms of what I now think when I go into the lesson, you've got to teach, even if I have the same group on a Monday, period 1, and then have them on a Tuesday, period 1, they're going to be completely different. And you have to not have a fixed mindset yourself as well, that you've got to look at what the children like when they walk into your lesson and how you're going to deal with those situations completely differently. I would definitely recommend doing a research project. It is hard work, looking into things and researching, but actually when you put it into practice and you see the outcomes, it's more than worth it. You've got to consider that it's not always going to work. Like, what you read in the books doesn't always come into practice when you put it there, but something will click and something will happen where you just then acknowledge that, that time was worth it. And when the children, you see the children flourish like I have, then that's definitely why you do it.